Hello, my name's Tony Claydon and I'm Professor of Early Modern History here at Bangor University. The early modern period, in the West anyway, is generally taken to be those centuries between 1500 and 1800, so really the 16th, 17th and 18th centuries. I like this period, and I think a lot of students do as well, because although it's quite different from the modern world, so it's interesting and it has that fascination of alienation from the sort of culture that we live in. Although that's true, it's also very much the origins of the modern world in many, many ways. You see things beginning to develop in that period between 1500 and 1800, like, certainly in Britain, questioning of the monarchy, the first stirrings of democratic thought, a new diversity of religion, new opportunities in society as places became more prosperous, more cultural innovation and excitement, I think. So there's lots and lots to study within these hundreds of years that we look at as early modernists. What we do in Bangor to introduce you to that period is there's a first year course called, we hope quite wittily, The 6 Lives of Henry VIII. That takes one of the really big, well-known, colourful characters from our period, but looks how that king, Henry VIII, interacted with some of the important developments that you'd be studying right through your career as an early modernist. So we look at how he handled the Reformation and the new religious ideas that were coming in, the birth of Protestantism. We look at his interaction with the Renaissance, the new exciting cultural movement of the period. We think about changes in gender relations by thinking about his different wives and why he was pursuing so many different marriages as part of his power strategy. We think about changes in government and the power of Parliament and these sorts of things. So that course in the first year introduces you to the main themes. Beyond that, we have a range of courses for the second and third year, some of them outline modules taking a period of history. I teach one, for instance, going from the Armada under Elizabeth I in 1588 right through the Civil Wars and on to the Restoration, so seeing how English and Welsh society really fell apart in those decades and then tried to put itself back together again. But there are also thematic modules. I teach one on the German Reformation, for instance, or also one on royal propaganda in England and Wales, showing how monarchs tried to sell themselves to their people using a variety of media, from print to ritual to architecture to art, all sorts of things. And then in the third year, there are specialist subjects where you focus in on a very particular aspect of the period and study it in depth with lots of reference to primary documents. I teach something on the Glorious Revolution, an event that removed a King of England in 1688 and replaced him with someone else who was perhaps more conducive, more happy with the idea of parliamentary power. You also get a chance, if you want to do this, to write a dissertation in your third year in the early modern period, and there's lots of fascinating things that you can actually do. This is a project which is sustained over a year where you research the topic for yourself, secondary and primary sources, and then write up your findings in a sustained piece of work, about 10,000 words long. And there's all sorts of possibilities for things you could do there. You could study the local aspect of something in the early modern period, like the dissolution of the monasteries, or maybe the Civil War, or social structure, in a community close to where perhaps you live, using the local records in the local archives. You could exploit the fact that every piece of printed material from before 1800, sermons and ballads and books and pamphlets and broadsides, everything is available online freely through the Bangor Library website. So you can make that sort of in-depth study. Or you can look at some of the extraordinary artwork that's coming out of this period, the buildings, the paintings, the music, and use that as your primary source. So I do think, and I hope, that you would enjoy looking at early modern stuff if you came here to Bangor, and that we would teach it in a way that would engage and interest and develop your skills as a historian.